activist Susan Hayase, historian Connie Young Yu, and immigrant rights activist Teresa Castellanos. And we will be taking questions from the audience, so please take the mic if you have a question or a comment. I'd like to ask all of you to talk about this time that we're in, because I'm guessing, Susan, that the Day of Remembrance in 2019 is very different from the Day of Remembrance in 2015, just because of everything that's going on. It seems like people are really hungry to learn about these issues, and at the same time, there's what we're hearing out of the White House, the Muslim ban, children being separated from their families. In fact, during the last show we did, we learned that in some cases, these children are not going to be reunited with their parents, which is so hard to even say and comprehend. So how are you thinking about this time that we're in right now?
You know, Rose, I think many Japanese Americans are just outraged. And I think many Japanese Americans are deeply hurt because, you know, I think ever since the redress victory, many Japanese Americans have been involved in efforts across the country to do public education about our experience, because we don't want it to happen to anybody else, and we want people to understand what violations of individual rights are, what it is to scapegoat people, and what it is to harm people for political purposes. And so I think that, you know, actually ever since 2001, I think we've been very concerned, and people have been speaking out about the growing discrimination against Muslim Americans and scapegoating. But I think as the 2016 election, started getting up to speed, it really escalated. People started talking about it like Pearl Harbor, you know, and I think many Japanese Americans, it's like our worst nightmare. You know, I think many former incarcerees testified at the commission hearings in 1981, even though they were afraid to testify, and even though, you know, they had been kind of beaten into silence for decades, but they did it because they didn't want it to happen to anybody else. So I think Japanese Americans are deeply angered and concerned. And, you know, the children especially, it's just, I think if you're a decent human being, you have to respond to the issue of separating children. And I think that many people, like Connie just mentioned the story of her mother being separated from her own mother. And I think during the Mexican repatriation of the 30s, there were many families that were separated. And during World War II, there were a lot of Japanese American families that were separated. One of the programs that Tom mentioned as part of our Don't Exclude Us series was entitled, "And I Never Saw My Father Again." And I think that rings a bell for many people, and Japanese Americans, we feel that real strongly.